Rolling.
Okay, so we would like to welcome you to the Building a Steampunk Persona workshop. I am Dr. Johann Portsmouth Adler.
And I'm Lady Idis von Adler, his cousin.
Now, when you're building a steampunk persona, you do not always have to speak with an accent, or you could choose a different accent.
You could start with a British accent.
You could speak with a German accent.
Possibly you don't need an accent.
Or you could try an Irish accent.
Possible, don't worry. Hi, hello, sorry.
It's
okay, I'm here. It's all right.
You don't have a name
Steve,
tag.
yeah, Steve.
Oh, yeah, no, I got it.
Oh no. Oh,
We're good. We're good. We're all good.
We'll let you in.
So, once again, welcome to Building a Steampunk Persona. I'm Stuart McPhee.
I'm Kaylee Kine.
I'm Stephen Wallace.
Hopefully we didn't jar you too much with our little skit. I would say skit, but this is everyday life for us.
You might want to run away.
We do have a few disclaimers to go over first.
So you might want to stop us every once in a while because we ramble. We ramble a lot.
Also, this is billed as an interactive workshop, so at any time during this, if you have a question, please feel free to throw up your hand, and the minute we see you, we'll go ahead and point to you. Fire away. Questions, comments. Tell us to get the heck off the stage.
Please don't detach your hands in front of them.
No throwing items, please. We do like to collect our stuffs, but we don't need any of yours. Next thing is, we have our own camera people right here. Just ignore them. If everyone can look this way, ignore these two. They're invisible. I know you're looking at blank spaces, but they're not here. Okay.
Well, the one on this one we like, the one on that side we don't.
He's an okay guy. He can fart the alphabet. He's wonderful.
No, I don't like it.
And finally, one final disclaimer. We're going to be going over the actual Building a Steampunk Persona. That is a character that you inhabit while you're in costume. Now, that being said, you can fully enjoy the steampunk genre without having a persona or portraying a persona. We like to think of it as extra icing on the cake, so to speak. So with that being said, we will move on to our next.
So as we were talking, these two had introduced their characters. I am Smithy. My full name is James Bennington Smith. I'm from Glasgow, Scotland. I have grown up on a farm and I have actually done a lot of tinkering in my lifetime. This is my business partner, Lady von Adler.
Or as he likes to call me, Lady.
Hi, this is Gaelic for lady, so please forgive me if I just call her Lassie once in a while.
I am Dr. Johann Portsmouth Adler. Even though I speak with a German accent, I am Canadian. I am from Moncton, New Brunswick.
Born, not raised.
Born in Moncton, New Brunswick, raised primarily in Germany, and my cousin Idis here, even though we have the different last names, we are actually related through the main von Adler family in Germany.
And Idis she's
a little flustered right now. She's actually a British noblewoman who enjoys taking long walks on the beach.
No, she enjoys hitting Smithy upon his head because he does not know how I say it's, be proper.
Now, with those brief introductions for our personas, when we were coming up with this, we identified 3 basic questions that if you want to start a persona, 3 basic questions that you would start with. First one is, where are you? What is your name? You can find name generators, baby names. Go with what you like. Find things that have interesting meanings behind them. Like for Idis, for example, we were trying to come up with a name, and so we looked up different versions of Lady and came across the Gaelic translation of Idis.
Yeah, and then we found out that there's 2 different forms of Lady in Gaelic, which happened to spawn her a twin.
And so we created a twin persona. Now, James Bennington Smith was originally Scottish. We have our good personas, and we have our evil personas. The evil persona is Smith, and Smith is just a evil son of a bitch. Excuse the language, but Adler here also has a dark persona too.
Yes, the dark persona of Dr. Adler is Hereinklef, and I don't know really where I came up with the name for it. It's just one of those things. I was piecing together names one day, and it just kind of came. I was like, "Ooh,
You just kind of just decided
I like
liked
that."
it.
The next question is, where are you from? Which part of the world do you live in? Were you born there? For my character, he was actually born in Canada.
And for Lady Addis, she is born and raised from England.
And James Bennington Smith is a true blue Scotsman.
And finally, the category that we seem to have the most fun with, what do you do? My character, Dr. Adler, he is a medical doctor, but he also holds another doctorate in cryptozoology.
In case you're wondering what cryptozoology is, it's mythological beings or creatures of different styles like werewolves, vampires, and so on and so forth.
And in addition to that, he also has founded a company that helps him fund his endeavors, the Wolf and Adler Company, that he brought Idas in.
Yep, because Idas is a genius when it comes to financial things. So she becomes the financial advisor of the Wolf and Adler Company. And then Smithy does things and ends up with his own business.
I failed upwards in life. You know that whole saying, when you fall up the stairs, you know you've accomplished something in your life? Well, I fell up the stairs and then some. I kept rolling up.
Yeah.
So the character that we created was a tinkerer who pieced parts together to create a business. Since he didn't know how to do the financial portion, he gave that to her, which then created a functioning business which made, in this time, thousands of dollars, which would translate to millions for us. So the way that we came up with these different stories is that all three of us, we literally get together at Denny's, Pizza Hut, or even in his backyard, and we start shooting ideas at each other.
Yep.
Among those ideas, we try our best to keep in character with it to see how well this character grows in the interaction of other characters.
My neighbors think I'm crazy.
Which happens all the time. But
Okay,
with
my roommates think that
Stuart
I've gone
here,
insane.
with Stuart here, he came up with this idea, and we decided, well, let's see how far we can go with this idea. And we're still rolling the ball.
And now we're planning on writing a book about it.
Yeah, yeah, we're starting to do a little dabbling into writing. I'm hoping to have a rough draft done within a year. And as this has rolled along, we've started bringing others into this wild and crazy world. When I started coming up with ideas for these characters and this setting, originally it was just Dr. Adler. This was just the persona that just a fun little thing I come up with for going out to steampunk meetings and that. As I think what influenced me for that is I come from a role-playing setting background. I love role-playing games. I love coming up with characters and telling stories for them. And that built up into when I started getting into steampunk, I developed a character for it before I even had an outfit. And that's how the original Dr. Adler was born. Then I started talking with Mr. Wallace here, and then the character Smithy came about.
And then everything went insane.
When we included Kaylee.
No.
Nobody likes French Tuesday anymore.
Everything went insane because Tuesdays are the days that we run away from him in terror.
But we came together, started spitballing ideas around, me and Wallace, and then eventually we came about where Kaylee started hanging out with us, and we were talking about the story setting, character ideas, costume ideas, prop ideas, and she had a few ideas for personas herself, and I approached her with an idea. I had actually we started with the evil character for her first.
Freya von Adler, now Lexine.
Otherwise known as Lexine, the vampiric assassin. And then as we were developing that character, I had another character in this setting. It was literally just Lady von Adler. No other description other than she was the chief financial officer of this Wolf and Adler company. And I was at a bit of a crossroads with that, where it's like, okay, where do I go with this character more? I kind of tapped the wells, I kind of dried up the well, so to speak, idea-wise, and then talking with Kaylee about it.
Suddenly this character is interesting. That's a word.
And then one fateful day at Pizza Hut, Freya and Idis were born. It was a beautiful birth.
And then a late night conversation spawned more characters.
But that all aside, that is our general introductions for our characters, where we came up with them, what we did. So it doesn't really honestly take much for you to create a character. So we're going to do a audience participation. We're going to ask you guys 3 simple questions. We're going to ask one at a time. So would you love to go first, lads? Yes, what is your name?
My real name?
Well, yes, we're going to start with real names, and then we're going to go into character names if you want to do that. So what's your real name?
Melissa.
Melissa, where are you from?
Edmonton.
So you're from Edmonton, Melissa is from Edmonton. What do you do for a living?
I work in insurance.
Insurance. So Melissa from Edmonton works in insurance. There's her character, yay! Now, that all aside, we're going to bring this back into what is your name, and this is going to be your character's name that you have come up with for your persona that you're wearing right now. If you want to come up with something, if you want to even ask us what we see in you, what your name would be, we're definitely qualified to come up with some weird, quirky names. Just give us a second to go through Google and maybe even like sit around eating pizza. It might take a day or two, but we'll get back to you on that one. So, but what is your name?
I don't know.
Okay. Well, here's another question we can throw to the crowd, just to kind of warm everyone up. The 3 of us are going to come up with a persona just off the top of our heads. So, first question would be, where will this person be from? Any ideas, anyone? Think of a place. Where would this person be from? Wyoming?
Wyoming.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
So this lovely lady here is from Wyoming.
The next question. What do they do? What is their job? Do they have a job?
Detective.
Detective from Wyoming.
Detective
Oh,
from
right.
Wyoming.
And
With her fashionable flair, this is perfect for her.
Okay.
Anybody who says Sherlock Holmes, I will go murderous.
Well, instead of trying to come up with a name, let's try a random quirk. What would be a random quirk for this character?
A pet peeve or a...
Pet peeve, a habit.
Cows.
What?
Say again?
Hates cows.
So now we're going to do this a little bit interestingly. This wondrous detective from Wyoming who does cow detectives hates every cow. Despises them with a fiery passion of a million suns. And if you want to stand up here and wave to these lovely people, we're going to do a fun little trick here. From Wyoming, what do you think a name would be for this lovely lady right here? Roll out any random name that you want. Rose, perfect.
Nice.
Now, a last name. Now, if you're going to be creative with a last name, think of gears, cogs, or even just machinery. What would you think that her last name would be?
Cogsmith.
Cogsmith. So Rose Cogsmith, a detective from Wyoming who absolutely despises cows. Take a bow. Now, if you want to write that down, we'll let you. We're not going to hold copyright on that. That's all you.
And honestly, this getting together with friends and rolling ideas around, this is how quickly an idea, or how a character can be spawned. And it can also reach back to the background, like the background that you yourself come from in real life. Like, plus also whatever specialties that you might have. For instance, I've just started dabbling in steampunk jewelry. I like come up with little jewelry, so that's where I came up with these crystals that myself and Kaylee wear, which
They're very shiny.
They normally light up, but they're misbehaving today.
Actually.
I came across these at a local Valley Village, and just out of the blue, a story idea popped up.
And if you're going to start doing costumes, Valley Village is a good place to get started. They're
Valley
your friend.
Village, dollar store,
Home
everywhere.
Depot for paints and
Yeah,
other
there is actually
Get
a panel.
creative.
There is actually a panel further on today where one of our members will be going over doing costuming on the cheap. Plus another, I guess you could say, specialty is I like telling stories.
It's amazing stories. He doesn't
Apparently
believe
people
it.
apparently people like my stories that I come up with. I like telling stories for people, places, things that I come across or that I put together over time. And it's, I guess, I wouldn't say obsession, because it hasn't gotten that far yet, thankfully. But
A passion.
a passion, definitely.
For myself, I make costumes. That's where I actually fell in love with the steampunk genre. It's where I fell in love with a lot of the conventions and stuff is I make costumes. So a lot of the time I might make a character from the idea of a costume that I want to make or one that I already have.
And I do props. I like to take Nerf guns and repaint them, restyle them, create different things out of them. Among the things that I like to make is like ray guns, canes. I even like to collaborate with my lovely friend here to create something completely unique and different for either like capes or different things like that. Yes, we are unshamefully going to be promoting our business, Cogs and Stitches. Come visit us at the Big Four building. Come see wild, crazy, awesome items.
Yeah, shameless
But,
insert right there.
As a person who has access to wonderful distractive tools of mass destruction and different things like that, I like to create things with my hands, work with my hands. And she likes to create wondrous items with her hands. And this man just uses his mind, so he's pretty much lazy in that sense. When we're coming up with some wonderful things for our hands, he's just sitting around thinking all day long.
I'm the one that comes up with the name and story and what it does.
Hey, I do some of that too, mister.
But
Fine,
in any
next time you
case-
ask for dragon names, I won't give you anything.
But in any case, it doesn't so much mean that you yourself have to sit around. You can actually get together with friends. This is a great social activity for us. This is what keeps us sane. As
Weird as
Same
that
can
is.
as sane as ever. We'll be generous with that. But as different as we all are, we have all of our quirks in a row so that we can actually just work off of each other. Sometimes when he's coming up with a story, he'll be telling his idea, and I'll just like blurt out some random, weird, interesting thing, and he's just like, oh shit, I gotta write that down now.
Yeah, and sometimes we hate him for that because it's like every time we have finalized a part of the story, he comes up with something new. We're like, no!
And we're
There's a
Again.
little box that he has, and he puts his story in there, and when I try to add an idea, he says, no, it's in the box, shut up.
And the great thing is that stories and personas, they will develop over time. One thing I've found myself is that when I started initially building Dr. Adler, he was a very different character than what he is now. But over time, meeting other members of the steampunk community, building my first costume, the persona that you will portray will change over time. And it's a
Don't
great
be
thing.
afraid of change.
Yeah, just as normal people, as we grow and develop, our personalities will change over time. So will your steampunk persona, which is in my opinion, a great thing. Like that way, it's not static. It's constantly changing, constantly evolving.
It's constantly growing.
Hey, I went from being a farmer's child working at a blacksmith's joint to becoming a multi-industrial millionaire over a plate of Denny's.
Yeah, and I went from a vampiric something that we had no idea of her backstory to suddenly she has a sister, and her sister is a genius in her own right and has a hatred for her business partner.
Actually, another great example, two great examples I can think of right at the top of our head for personas and how that came about is a couple members of the audience here, our local group members. They've been gracious enough to join us in the craziness that we are developing with a linked story connecting all our characters.
Speaking of Link, we got this one gentleman right here. Come on up, Andrew. Come on up here.
Oh God.
Show yourself off, wave at the audience. This is one of our members that helps us create spontaneous growth in our stagnant lives when we're coming up with new ideas. This man is one of the glory children in this group, so.
Yeah, otherwise known as Corporal O'Reilly. Someone who has an innate talent for bringing you what you need just as you need it. And is very
Really
silent
quiet.
about it. He needs to wear a bell.
Unless you're Lady Itis, who can hear him 20 miles away.
And another member is actually that just recently joined us in this madness that is the persona building, is our cameraman here.
Who doesn't exist.
He's invisible, what is that?
I screwed up the video. Hello.
We had another character that we had developed in this story, Professor Magnus, known as the Mad Alchemist. And it was just a fun idea I came up with one day, wrote it down, set it aside. And then one day I was talking with Alex at a meeting about this story and characters that we were developing, and I was like, wait, you would be a good fit for Professor Magnus.
He's insane enough for it.
Yep, and that's a natural insanity.
and there another persona was born.
Or
So,
there was the one day that this one came up with, it kept saying Frenchman, Frenchman, Frenchman. And so the next day, me and
it
him
was
were
a wonderful
talking.
Tuesday.
And we now have 3 French character ideas that we're playing around with.
It's all his fault.
And we don't even have proper accents, it's always outrageous.
It's not, no! No, we are not doing the outrageous accents. Go in the corner.
Because I work at the muffin factory.
Actually, since we seem to be burning through time here really quickly, I'm just going to slow things down for a minute, just take a quick break. Does anyone have any questions or comments?
Or would you like to come up here and we can create a persona for you?
Maybe
Or
another
help you
person from
grow.
Montana that hates
Are you
cats?
brave? Are you interested?
Oh.
Ah, we have a volunteer,
We have a volunteer.
yes!
Have a volunteer.
We have a vote.
You're the only one who can get up at this point. I
Now,
walked in.
No, come on up. Come on up to the stage, right here.
Don't be afraid, we don't bite
Hello,
unless you
what's
ask.
your name?
I don't know.
Well, you have an ID? What's your real name, sweetie?
My real name is Monica.
Monica, everyone, this is Monica. Now, Monica, we're just going to try some hypnosis. You do not know who you are. Now we are going to create a new persona for her. Now imagine this. She doesn't know who she is. What is her name? Let's try.